What are the chances Ohio State's Marvin Harrison wins the Heisman Trophy on Saturday? The odds are stacked against him, but we may have a path for him to get there. We'll share that with you right here on Locked On Big Ten.
You are Locked On Big Ten, your daily podcast on the Big Ten Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Big Ten. I'm Craig Sheeman. Thank you for making us your first listen each and every day. And every day, we appreciate you guys that come back day after day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube as part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnCollege and use the code Locked On College for a first deposit match up to $100. Daily fantasy sports made easy. Heisman hopes for Harrison. We will discuss and see if it's realistic. There's some great competition amongst the four finalists. Wisconsin and Arizona, some big boy basketball this weekend. Plus, we got our pigskin picks. We're going to do something a little bit different at the end. Hang on for that. In the meantime, be sure to subscribe down below and follow Locked On Big Ten for free wherever you get your podcast. That way you get the latest episode of this podcast as soon as it becomes available each and every day. And subscribing is free. You just click it on, set it, and forget it. You're good to go. Marvin Harrison had a wonderful season and a wonderful career at Ohio State. I say career. He was asked, by the way, today if he would consider coming back. He says he hasn't made up his mind yet about the NFL draft. He has some unfinished business. It really bothers him. He did not beat Michigan. Or win a Big Ten championship, leaving the door open. And with nil money the way it is, we'll see. Although if I was his agent, I'd say go to the NFL. You're probably going to be the top 2, top 3 pick in the draft. But that's for later. Let's get back to the Heisman here. For his efforts, he's one of 4 finalists for the Heisman Trophy this weekend, be awarded Saturday night, given to the best college football player each season, or they say it's the best college football season or player each season. Like, the odds are stacked against him. And in my opinion, he won't win the award on Saturday night. I'm not being a Debbie Downer or anything like that. The competition is great with the 3 other quarterbacks that are in there with him. But if he does win this trophy, it'll because of several events will come together to make it so. We'll try and outline those here for you here on the Locked On Big Ten podcast. Look, Harrison put together some amazing stats at Ohio State. First of all, he's the first Buckeyes receiver to have not 1, but 2 1,000-yard seasons. Think of all the great Ohio State wide receivers over the years. Not one of them did that. He did it. This season alone, he had 67 catches for 1,211 yards and 14 receiving touchdowns and another rushing touchdown for 15 on the season. He was spectacular this year. So if he does win, he will be the first Buckeye since Troy Smith did it in 2006. Now, I was starting to allude to the fact that back in the day, the Heisman Trophy, it's given to the best college football player in the country, and kind of morphed into, when I was growing up, a running backs award. More times than not, the running backs got it. More recently, it's become a quarterback showcase award. In fact, since 2000, 19 of the 22 awards have gone to quarterbacks. Harrison is the only non-quarterback in the mix of 4 finalists going to New York. There's Oregon's Bo Nix. Wonderful job there. Washington's Michael Penix Jr., who I think is the most accurate passer in all of college football. And LSU's Jayden Daniels. Those are the 3 finalists, all quarterbacks, and then Marvin Harrison, a lone wide receiver. So, by the way, the 3 non-quarterbacks to win the Heisman since 2000, they are running back Mark Ingram. He did it in 2009, Derrick Henry in 2015, and Devontae Smith, wide receiver, in 2020. All 3 of those players played at Alabama, by the way. Fun fact for you there. So let's take a look at the voting those 3 years when non-quarterbacks won. And there's a reason I want to do this. because I think the only chance that Marvin Harrison has at winning is if the quarterback vote is split evenly, like all around the same, and then that leaves enough votes for Harrison, the wide receiver, to get it. And a lot of the times, these you can look at players splitting votes from a region. For example, Bo Nix at Oregon and Michael Penix in Washington might split up the West Coast vote or the Northwest vote, and therefore not get as high of a number and maybe take themselves out of contention. That could happen. That would leave Jayden Daniels for the South with LSU, and of course Marvin Harrison alone in the Midwest to gather a bunch of voters from. There's a lot of voters in the Heisman Trophy. So when you split them up around the country like that, you can kind of regionalize them a little bit. Sometimes they play favorites. Sometimes they don't, but we'll kind of look at that as well. You do look at Jayden Daniels at LSU, and if you just look at his stats alone, I think it's a wrap. I think Jayden Daniels at LSU wins it. Daniels' passing numbers are every bit as good as Bo Nix and every bit as good as Michael Penix Jr., in some cases better, but then you add the fact he's an 1,000-yard rusher as well. Statistically, should put him over the top, unless all three quarterbacks kind of split their quarterback vote, and then there's Marvin Harrison. That's what we're going to look for here. So if you follow where I'm going here, let's take a look at the vote, those 3 years that a non-quarterback won the Heisman. Go to 2009, Mark Ingram, running back out of Alabama. Keep in mind, you get your first, second, and third place votes. There's points that go with it, point totals, and that's how they do this. For example, Mark Ingram in 2009 received 1,304 votes, okay, total, when he did the whole formula together, 1,304. Toby Gerhart, the running back out of Stanford, got 1,276. It was the closest Heisman vote ever. Those two running backs got almost equal amount of votes. Then there was quarterback Colt McCoy at 1,145, and Ndamukong Suh, defensive lineman, he got 815 points, the Nebraska defensive tackle there. All right, so those two running backs, close vote. Let's look at 2015. Derrick Henry, running back out of Alabama, got 1,832 votes. Christian McCaffrey got 1,539. A lot of votes going to running back. The next two guys were quarterbacks. And Deshaun Watson, 1,165. And then Baker Mayfield just scratched at 334. It really wasn't a factor in that particular race. But I think the one that most applies to Marvin Harrison this year was when 2020, when Devontae Smith, another wide receiver, got the award, and he was a finalist among three other quarterbacks. Same situation that we have here this year. And you look at Devontae Smith that year, he won with 1,856 votes. The next two quarterbacks were Trevor Lawrence and Mac Jones, and they both came in around 1,100 and change. So 1,187 votes for Trevor Lawrence, 1,130 votes for Mac Jones. Kyle Trask bottomed it out, 737. But if you take all three quarterbacks that year, they totaled over 3,000 votes. And then Devontae Smith with 1,856. See what I mean? If all the quarterbacks split up a quarterback vote, and they don't vote by position, but I'm just saying quarterbacks get a lot of attention and favorable attention. That is Marvin Harrison's path to success here, and we'll see if he can pull it off. I'm not sure that he will. I still think that Jayden Daniels ends up winning this thing, but that's how Marvin Harrison can get in if they kind of split each other up. So good luck to all four of them. They're all great. Enjoyed watching them all play here this season. We'll see who comes out on top. We'll love your comments and thoughts on who you think is going to get the Heisman Trophy. You can hit us up on Twitter or X at Talk Big Ten. Find us on the website, talkbig10.com, and on YouTube as well. Love all your comments. We have a huge Big Ten basketball game going on this weekend. At least one of the teams is a Big Ten team. Wisconsin has been on fire lately. They're at number 1, Arizona, over the weekend. We are going to take a look at that among some other things. It's all in 1 minute right here on Locked On Big Ten. PrizePicks is fun. You got to check this out. PrizePicks. It is the largest daily fantasy sports platform in North America. and it's you and the numbers. You pick a couple of athletes, maybe up to 6 athletes, bunch them up with some stats. You say more than those stats or less than those stats. Give you a couple of examples. You could pair Justin Fields, so the Bears and Lions play each other, for example. Justin Fields of the Bears, more than 1 rushing touchdown, and Jared Goff, more than 2 passing touchdowns. If that happens, you're a winner. You can throw in basketball players. You can mix a football player and a basketball player. You could look at Bill Spurs this weekend and say Wemby, less than 20 points. I think he averages 18 and change. Mix it in with another player or 2 or 3. And if you're right, you win. It's that simple. It's a lot of fun with PrizePicks. Here's what you need to do. You go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnCollege and use the Locked On College code, Locked On College, for a first deposit match up to $100. Again, go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnCollege and use the code Locked On College for a first deposit match up to $100. PrizePicks, daily fantasy sports made easy. I want to thank everybody out there for making Locked On Big Ten your first listen every day, especially you everydayers who come back every day. Really appreciate you. Meanwhile, be sure to subscribe. Help us out. Subscribe down below or share, follow, and like Locked On Big Ten. Or if you listen audio only, for example, maybe you listen 3 times a week, 3 times a month. Try to add an extra one to the mix of the rotation. Would really, really help us out. All right? Locked On Big Ten, your team every day. With all the exciting football going on, we've spent a lot of time talking football here on Locked On Big Ten. We need to start dialing in on basketball a little bit here. And the 23rd ranked Wisconsin Badgers have a date Saturday with number 1 ranked Arizona taking on the Wildcats, 3:15 Eastern time. That's a national game on ESPN. Now, the Badgers, they're 7-2. They've won 6 in a row. And in those 6 games, they've won by an average margin of 15 points. They are blowing people out here. In fact, their last 2 games have been against formerly number 4, Michigan State. Michigan State's got problems. We've talked about that earlier this week. And had a double-digit win versus number 3 Marquette. So they're beating ranked teams. They're beating them. And by the way, the Michigan State game and the Marquette game, Wisconsin never trailed from the opening bucket. And again, blowing people out, just dominating teams. So they're going to get a real test here, taking on Arizona. Arizona 7-0 record that includes wins over number 2 Duke, and they also beat Michigan State as well. Not as bad as Michigan, or not as bad as Wisconsin beat Michigan State. So maybe that's something to gauge. So, in fact, I think Arizona beat Michigan State by 6, but Wisconsin beat it by 13. That was it. Yeah. So I don't know if you take that to the bank or not, but it's certainly something to look at. Badger sophomore AJ Storr is the star. He's averaging 14 points and 3 rebounds per game. They got a 7-footer and Stephen Krull, who averages 12 points and 7 rebounds a game. So and they got a nice freshman coming off the bench, and John Blackwell. He gives you about 9 points and 3 rebounds per game for Greg Gard's basketball team. Good team. We're really going to say it's going to be a big test on Saturday against Arizona. Elsewhere around the conference, we just spent the last 3 months talking about Iowa football not scoring a lot. Well, Iowa men's basketball does score a lot. They lead the league in scoring. They're averaging like 88 points per game. So watch out for them here. They're very complete, balanced attack. And also, as long as we're talking about Iowa, let's switch over to women's hoops for just a minute, because with the Lady Hawkeyes, that means we must talk about Caitlin Clark, who's like the best player ever. She just passed 3,000 career points. And look, if you follow basketball, if you have 1,000 career points, you're a good player. If you score over 2,000 points, you are elite. 3,000, that's ridiculous territory. And she still has the rest of the season to go. She's just getting going. She's going to add to that for sure. Very, very exciting. We're talking about offense. How about defense? Back to men's basketball. Let's talk about Rutgers for just a second. They have the best scoring defense in the conference. They only give up 58 points per game. And they just landed point guard Dylan Harper, the number 2 prospect of the entire 2024 class. and he was the top uncommitted senior in the country. That gives the Scarlet Knights 2 of the top 3 recruits of the country, and that means that Rutgers has the number 2 recruiting class overall. What's going on? Becoming a basketball power before our very eyes. Congratulations there. Harper is a 6'5" guard. He chose Rutgers over Duke, Kansas, Indiana, and Auburn. Now, his brother went there. That's probably had a lot to do with it, but he's the younger brother of former Rutgers player Ron Harper Jr., who's now with the Toronto Raptors. So keep an eye on Rutgers basketball for sure. Also, keep an eye out for this Locked On Network. Got something new going on. Locked On Sports Today. It is a 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. It's the first ever 24/7 sports streaming channel. This channel appears on there. All of our channels appear on there. And just national shows covering every league right there, 24/7, just on rotation. It's great. Check it out. You can subscribe to that as well. All right, coming up in a minute, I want to do pigskin picks, but I'm going to do something a little different here today. I will explain that. These are looking at the Big Ten teams in bowl games. That's coming up next right here on Locked On Big Ten. Passion, drive, and patience. It's what brings home the winning trophy for any football team, any basketball team. You've got to have it. And it's also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance, from superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, everything that makes your ride look cool. They've got it. That and more. So whether you need speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. And with over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. And with all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit, only available to U.S. customers. All right, so I want to do pigskin picks. You know, we do that closing out the week. Now the season's over, and no, we're not going to do Army, Navy, although take the under. But we're going to look ahead a little bit to the bowl games. Now, before I pick the games, I'm not going to pick them today. I'm going to put them out there. I'm going to tell you what the point spreads and the over-unders are right now, because this is going to move. It's going to move a lot. So that's why I would advise you can go look at the point spreads on FanDuel, our friends over there. Maybe don't put anything down on any of these games just yet. Things are going to change. We're going to learn. It's too early, right? We got a couple of weeks, several weeks before some of these games. Things can happen. Players can get injured. Players can opt out. Players could say, I'm going to the NFL. I'm not going to risk injury in a bowl game. Players may hit the transfer portal. There's too much moving on. Just wait till we get a little bit closer before we put any action on any of this stuff. Okay. So I'm going to put this on screen and we're going to take a look at it together and see where things stand right now. Again, all of our spreads come from our friends at the FanDuel Sportsbook. And we'll start it off with the Las Vegas Bowl. Of course, that will be Utah and Northwestern. Right now, Utah is a 7-point favorite. The over-under sitting at 41.5. I think that's about right. Both ways. Well, yeah, both ways. The over-under, I like it. Maybe Northwestern could get inside that 7 points. Let's see if that line moves between now and when the game goes just a couple days before Christmas. All right, the Quick Lane Bowl in Detroit. Bowling Green at Minnesota. Minnesota, just a 5-win, 5-7, right? They got in because they didn't have enough 6 or more win teams to get into fill all the bowls. The next best academic school that was available was Minnesota. They get in, just a 5-win team, and yet Vegas thinks they're the favorite. How about that? 4-point favorite, over under at 38. I like the low number there, by the way. Minnesota's a good defensive team. Rutgers takes on Miami. That's at the Pinstripe Bowl in New York, Yankee Stadium. Again, I tell you, Miami's favored there. I'm going to tell you right now, we're going to go with Rutgers in this game. I don't know how much this line is going to move, but I mean, you got Miami coming from South Florida, going to a real cold, it's usually a cold, drab day in December at Yankee Stadium. Rutgers is made for this. So that's going to be my big, I don't want to know my big upset. That's going to be the upset. The over-under is at 41.5. Missouri is at Ohio State. Cotton Bowl. Again, you see here that Missouri is favored. I believe off the top of my head, Missouri is ranked 9th, Ohio State 8th, is it, or 7th? Anyway, they're ranked pretty closely and equal talent. But again, you got all these players from Ohio State leaving, transfer portal. Kyle McCord's not playing because he's out. So it's going to be a backup quarterback situation. That's why I think Missouri's favored there by 2.5. The over-under at 49 points. Okay, let's look at the Peach Bowl. Mississippi is at taking on Penn State, and right now Penn State a 3.5-point favorite, 49.5. By the way, we did a nice feature on Penn State yesterday. You Nittany Lions fans out there, go back and check it out where you get your podcasts. Go to yesterday's. It's all on Penn State and the new offensive coordinator and what to expect. Although don't expect anything different for the bowl game. Okay, the new offensive coordinator is going to kind of sit and watch and then get ready for the spring game. So it'll be more of the same old with Penn State as far as their offense is concerned. But they are favored by 3.5, and I like the over-under at 49.5. Music City Bowl, Auburn taking on Maryland. Auburn is a 2.5-point favorite. The over-under at 50. I do expect this to be a high-scoring game. ReliaQuest Bowl, Wisconsin taking on LSU. LSU a strong 11-point favorite, and I'd have to say, yeah, I agree with that. A lot of points will be scored, though, 55.5. I might even take the over on that. The Citrus Bowl, Iowa taking on Tennessee. Tennessee's favored by 8. The over-under 36.5. Have these people watched Iowa play this year? That's a high number. That's the highest over-under they've had in a month and a half. And, of course, Alabama and Michigan in the Rose Bowl. Michigan right now a 1-point favorite. The over-under at 45.5. That's about right, I think. And I don't know who I'm picking to win that one yet. It's going to be a field goal game. That's what I think. But anyway, that's a quick look at the point spreads right now. And, again, they are due to change, so don't put any action yet unless you're super confident. All right, that's just my tip of the day to help you out with all of that. And as we get close to those games, I'll actually make official picks for you. I'll get on the record. In the meantime, love to hear from you on, you can hit me up on Twitter or X at TalkBig1010. Don't forget our website, TalkBig1010.com, and on YouTube as well. And if you haven't, please subscribe, help us out. We're this close to like 5,000. Just let's get us there. We are just motoring through, heading that way. You can follow this podcast right now on your favorite podcast app, and you get the latest episode of Locked On Big Ten as soon as it becomes available each and every day. And don't forget, Locked On has the brand new national sports, first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube, Locked On Sports Today. Subscribe to that. Check it out right after this as well. In the meantime, have yourself a great day and a great weekend. We'll be back at you next time. Thanks for checking us out. I'm Craig Sheeman for Locked On Big Ten.